Be sure to give the video a thumbs up, share your insights in the comments, and subscribe to keep up with our newest narratives. The hour was late, far beyond the time I ought to have been awake. Silence enveloped the house, interrupted only by the gentle ticking of the clock mounted on the wall, and the subtle whisper of leaves dancing in the breeze beyond my window. Curled up on the couch, I found solace beneath an old blanket, cradling a warm cup of tea in my hands. The day had stretched on endlessly, and despite the knowledge that sleep beckoned, an inexplicable restlessness clung to me, refusing to let go. The house resonated with a profound emptiness in his absence. My husband, Wyatt, had spent the majority of the evening out with his friend, Arthur. For years they had forged an unbreakable bond, inseparable and full of mirth, their laughter echoing in the air as they exchanged tales from their histories. Stories I had come to appreciate, yet remained an outsider to. It wasn't that I held any disdain for Arthur. On the contrary, I found him quite likable. He possessed a warmth and humor that effortlessly put everyone at ease. Yet he remained an enigma, a puzzle that I could never quite solve. There was an enigmatic quality to him, a profound essence that always seemed to elude comprehension. That evening, I was unprepared for the dialogue that would ensue. As the clock approached midnight, the sound of the door creaking open pierced the stillness of the night. As I raised my gaze, there stood Arthur in the doorway, his figure framed by the soft glow spilling in from the hallway. Wyatt had drifted off on the couch following our night out, and I hadn't anticipated Arthur lingering for much longer. Yet, here he stood before me, his hands buried deep within the confines of his pockets. Our gazes intertwined, and in that fleeting instant, a delicate shift occurred, an unvoiced comprehension blossoming between us. A shift had settled into the atmosphere. "Hey," he said, his voice slightly raspy from the previous night's escapades. Leaving was not something I desired to do. I considered the possibility of engaging in conversation for a while. I nodded, placing my cup aside and gesturing to the space beside me. "Sure, Arthur. What thoughts occupy your mind?" He paused for a brief moment, as if deliberating the merits of voicing the thoughts swirling in his mind. His gaze darted toward Wyatt, who remained deep in slumber before returning to me. The atmosphere in the room grew increasingly charged. A peculiar tug enveloped me, a moment suspended in the air between us. With a deep sigh, he ran a hand through his tousled hair, gathering his thoughts before he finally spoke. "Have you ever experienced the sensation of not truly knowing someone?" "Not quite." I reclined into the couch, attempting to acclimate to the abrupt fervor of the discussion. Indeed, it seems that each person carries their own hidden truths. Wouldn't you agree? Even those who are nearest to us. Arthur emitted a soft chuckle, though it resembled more a sigh of relief than true mirth. "Indeed, but what if those secrets hold more weight than you could have ever imagined? What if the individual you believe you understand is not at all the person you imagined?" My heart began to race, a wild rhythm echoing in my chest. His words, seemingly nonchalant, bore a significance I was unready to confront. Though I had known Arthur for years, this moment carried a weight that felt distinctly different. He was not merely discussing his own experiences. An unspoken depth lingered in the air, hinting at a hidden truth beneath the surface. "Could you clarify what you mean?" I inquired, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. Uncertainty lingered in my mind about whether I truly desired the answer, yet the relentless pull of curiosity had a knack for transcending limits. Arthur adjusted his position, angling himself a bit in my direction. In his eyes a flicker emerged, hinting at a shadowy depth, a concealed essence lurking just beneath the surface. "I suppose there are matters we tend to avoid discussing," he remarked, his tone dropping, taking on a weightier air. "Secrets we entomb so profoundly that even we remain unaware of their existence. And when the truth finally emerges, it transforms everything." The hairs on the back of my neck bristled as the gravity of his words enveloped me. What was he implying? What message was he attempting to convey to me? I felt an irresistible pull towards the conversation, leaning in, though uncertainty lingered within me about whether I was truly prepared to listen. "Arthur," I began with hesitation, uncertain of the path ahead. "Could you clarify what you mean? What is it that you wish to convey?" He gazed at me for a fleeting moment, and within that instant I glimpsed something in his eyes that took me by surprise. It was neither fear nor concern. It was an experience that resonated on a deeper, more visceral level. He clutched a secret, one that had become too heavy to bear alone any longer. In that moment, I sensed with an unsettling clarity that his forthcoming words would alter the course of everything I held dear. "I'm speaking of Wyatt," he remarked, his tone gentle, yet it struck me with the force of a blow. "There exists an essence within him, a truth I've yet to share with you." My heart plummeted into the depths of my stomach. I gazed intently at Arthur, attempting to unravel the meaning behind his words. What on earth could he be referring to? Wyatt was my partner in life. Our marriage had spanned nearly 2 decades. We had crafted a life intertwined. Indeed, we experienced our share of highs and lows, much like any couple. Yet there remained an unwavering transparency between us. Or so I believed at least. "Arthur, what do you mean by that?" My voice faltered, revealing the unexpected pressure coiling within my chest. "What is happening?" He released a breath, his gaze fixed on mine with a fervor that was nearly overwhelming. "It's difficult for me to express this, but there's something Wyatt has been concealing from you, a burden he's been shouldering for quite some time, and I believe you have the right to uncover the truth." My thoughts surged like a tempest, a myriad of ideas crashing into one another in a chaotic whirlwind. What might he be referring to? What sort of secret might Wyatt be concealing? Why was Arthur revealing this to me now, in the stillness of the night, when it seemed as though everything was in flux beneath my feet? The atmosphere in the room took on a chill, and in the distance, I could discern the soft rhythm of Wyatt's breath. A constriction gripped my chest, an unsettling sensation that everything I understood about my existence was now under scrutiny, laid bare beneath an unforgiving glare. Arthur's voice pierced the stillness, gentler this time. "I may not be the one to voice this, yet I believe it's essential for you to hear it directly from him. It is essential for you to be informed. I shall refrain from divulging further details. You must inquire with him directly." In that instant, the gravity of the moment lingered in the air between us. Silence enveloped the air, leaving behind an absence of words, an end to all explanations. I remained motionless, grappling with the weight of the revelation that had just unfolded before me. Yet the question hung in the atmosphere, devoid of resolution. What was the hidden truth my husband had kept from me? The stillness in the room weighed heavily, wrapping around like a thick fog. Arthur's words lingered in the atmosphere, each syllable a haunting reverberation, and I found it impossible to dispel the sense that all I believed about Wyatt, all my trust, was now fracturing at the seams. I cast a sidelong look at Wyatt, who remained ensconced in slumber, entirely unaware of the tempest gathering around us. My thoughts surged, caught in a whirlwind of indecision. Should I face him now or bide my time for the perfect opportunity? But what if that moment never came to me? What if Arthur was indeed correct? What if Wyatt had been concealing a secret all this time? A sudden wave of discomfort washed over me as I rose, moving restlessly around the room in a whirlwind of anxiety. My thoughts swirled chaotically, each one intertwining with the next, cascading over the tantalizing prospect of what this secret might hold. Was Wyatt involved in an affair? Could there be a hidden chapter in his past that he had never revealed to me? My heart raced as a myriad of scenarios unfolded in my imagination, each more troubling than the one before. Arthur, perceiving the storm within me, held his tongue, his gaze fixed on me with a blend of worry and acceptance. My gaze averted from him, I felt an undeniable reluctance to meet his eyes. His participation in this, the manner in which he restrained himself, resonated as a betrayal, despite his assertions of having my best interests at heart. He possessed knowledge beyond what he was ready to acknowledge, and that ambiguity ate away at me. At last, after what seemed like an endless stretch of time, I pivoted to confront him. "Arthur," I murmured, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. "What is Wyatt's connection to this matter? Why didn't you share this with me earlier?" He exhaled deeply, his fingers tracing the nape of his neck. "It was never my intention to be the bearer of this news. It certainly presents its challenges, you see. Wyatt has endured much, and I find myself questioning whether it's appropriate for me to bring all of that into the open. However, it is essential for you to be aware that he is my closest companion, and I cannot withhold something of this magnitude from you." I shook my head, still in a daze. But why at this moment? What is the purpose of sharing this with me? If it was truly as dire as it seemed, what could possibly justify the delay until the witching hour? Arthur's gaze grew tender, for it had been gnawing at my mind, observing you alongside him, fully aware of the truths I hold. I cannot simply remain passive while you navigate this without any clarity. I wish to shield you from pain. I inhaled deeply, attempting to find my balance, yet it felt utterly unattainable. Countless questions lingered in the air, with an overwhelming sense of uncertainty weighing heavily on the outcome. As I pondered the situation, a question lingered in my mind. Was Arthur genuinely attempting to shield me, or was there a deeper narrative he was withholding? Should I address him at this moment? I inquired, my voice quivering ever so slightly. Arthur hesitated before responding. His eyes wandered downwards, a deep crease forming on his forehead. "I believe you ought to, yet I also sense that it could alter everything. It's quite overwhelming, and you'll require some time to fully absorb it all. You must come to a conclusion about how to handle this situation, yet it seems implausible to simply ignore the underlying issues at play." I nodded deliberately, sensing the gravity of his words enveloping me. The thought of facing Wyatt, of delving into matters that could potentially fracture our bond, filled me with dread. Yet, as time stretched on, the sensation of evading the truth intensified, and I realized I could no longer sustain that flight. Answers were essential to me. Before I had the chance to utter another word, Arthur rose from the couch, his face a mask of inscrutability. "I shall take my leave now. I have expressed everything within me, and now the decision lies in your hands. Please prioritize your well-being, all right?" I offered a faint nod, my mind adrift in a sea of contemplation, rendering me unable to articulate a proper response. He cast one final, lingering glance my way before slipping through the door, leaving me in solitude with the soft murmur of the night and the tempest brewing within my heart. I returned to the couch, lowering myself into its embrace with deliberate slowness, as if the very act of sitting could temper the frantic rhythm of my heart. My thoughts spiraled, each one more bewildering than the one before. Did Arthur have a point? Could it be that there was an aspect of my husband that remained hidden from me? Had I overlooked the clues? Was I truly oblivious to the essence of the one with whom I intertwined my existence? The walls seemed to constrict around me, suffocating in their embrace. I cast a sidelong look at Wyatt, his calm breaths a harsh echo of a time long past, serene, uncomplicated, untouched. Yet now it felt as if a shroud had descended upon all, obscuring my vision and leaving me in a haze of uncertainty. The gentle cadence of Wyatt's voice pierced the veil of my musings. "What's happening, darling?" he murmured softly, his eyelids remaining shut. He adjusted his position on the couch, his hands moving to his face in a weary gesture, before gradually sitting up. "Are you all right?" I stood still, caught in a moment of sheer disbelief. My stomach churned, and for a fleeting instant, the thought of revealing everything to him crossed my mind. A tightness gripped my throat, and yet the words eluded me. How might I? How could I possibly address what Arthur had mentioned when I was still in the dark about the truth myself? It was as though I stood at the precipice of a great abyss, uncertain of the consequences that awaited should I take that fateful step forward. "I'm fine," I said, mustering a smile that felt more like a mask than a genuine expression. Sleep eluded me. Wyatt blinked at me, his face shifting to reveal a gentle worry. "Are you certain? You appear somewhat disengaged." I nodded once more, at a loss for the appropriate words. What could possibly be expressed? How could I articulate the sensation that everything was abruptly transforming around me, leaving me uncertain about how to cling to the existence I once believed I understood? I was unable to do so, not at this moment, only when I gained a deeper understanding. For a fleeting moment, Wyatt's gaze locked onto mine, his eyes probing with an intensity that made me falter. I averted my eyes, unable to withstand the weight of his stare. The atmosphere was charged, a palpable weight settling deep within me. He remained unaware of the knowledge I possessed. I haven't found the right moment, and I'm uncertain about how to convey it to him. At last, Wyatt rose to his feet and extended his limbs in a satisfying stretch. "It's time for me to retire for the night. Are you joining us?" I offered him a constrained smile. "I shall arrive shortly." He nodded, his gaze lingering on me as if he had more to express, yet the words remained unspoken. He pivoted and strode down the hallway, abandoning me once again to the solitude of my thoughts. I remained in my seat, enveloped by the shadows of the softly illuminated room, my thoughts swirling in a tempest of activity. The burden of the secret bore heavily upon me, wrapping around me like a shroud, stifling my breath. His words left me in a state of confusion. Uncertainty loomed over my thoughts regarding Wyatt's actions, if there were any at all. Yet there was one certainty that lingered in my mind. This marked the inception of an undeniable journey. I was determined to uncover the truth, regardless of the path it might take me down. As I pondered further, a deeper understanding began to dawn on me. Little did I know the extent to which my life was on the brink of transformation. The night unfurled, each passing minute laden with an increasing weight. As I lay in bed, the gentle whisper of the sheets was the sole interruption to the profound silence surrounding me. Each subtle sound pierced through the fabric of my contemplation. How could I continue to feign that all was as it should be? The sound of Wyatt's steady breathing beside me intensified the unbearable silence that enveloped us. The affection I once experienced appeared to be eclipsed by an unsettling feeling of treachery. Yet, the reality was that certainty eluded me entirely. Not at this moment. I shifted my position, casting a fleeting look at the clock resting on the nightstand. The clock edged toward the hour of 3 in the morning. My body was weary, yet my mind refused to surrender to sleep. Memories of Arthur's words echoed in my mind. You have the right to be informed. Yet what could that possibly signify? What secrets might Wyatt be concealing? Could I ever find it within myself to forgive? Or was it an event that would eternally alter my perception of him? I found it necessary to engage him in conversation. There existed no alternative. If I allow this to continue, it will consume me from within. I was compelled to confront the reality, no matter what it entailed. The mere idea of facing him filled me with dread. Yet I realized I could no longer evade it. I found myself unable to continue in this manner. With deliberate caution, I eased myself out of bed, making every effort not to rouse Wyatt from his slumber. I snatched my robe from the chair, enveloping myself in its comforting embrace. The house was silent, an unsettling stillness enveloping it, and I sensed the heaviness of my choice lingering in the atmosphere like a dense mist. I crept quietly down the corridor toward the kitchen, where the delicate glow of the moon filtered softly through the windows. Time was essential for reflection, a moment to summon my bravery. My hands trembled as I filled a glass with water. It was nearly ridiculous how something so straightforward seemed so significant at that instant. The facade of normalcy became unbearable, a mask slipping away as the weight of truth pressed down on me. Yet how did I even begin? How did I dare to broach such an intimate subject with Wyatt, something so steeped in pain? What if I erred? What if Arthur had completely misinterpreted the entire situation? The mere idea of pointing a finger at him, of fracturing the delicate bond we shared, constricted my heart with an unbearable weight. Yet as time stretched on, the weight of uncertainty grew heavier. As I was on the verge of settling into my chair at the kitchen table, a sudden creak echoed from behind me. I stood still, my heart racing up into my throat. I pivoted with deliberate slowness, my breath momentarily stalling. Wyatt lingered in the doorway, his gaze weighed down by the remnants of slumber. Yet, beneath the surface, another layer lingered. Something concealed. Are you struggling to find rest as well? He inquired softly, his voice gravelly from slumber. I remained motionless, the glass of water unexpectedly weighing heavily in my grasp. His eyes delved into mine, as though he sought to decipher my very essence. Yet the words eluded me, trapped within the confines of my silence. I parted my lips, yet silence enveloped me. The constriction in my throat intensified, the lump within swelling with each fleeting moment. How could I convey to him the truths I held, the doubts that lingered, without utterly unraveling everything? I faltered, words escaping me as I struggled to complete the thought. It felt as though every word I sought was imprisoned behind an impenetrable barrier, and despite my relentless efforts, I remained unable to breach its confines. Wyatt approached me slowly, his expression becoming gentler with each step. "Hey," he said softly, "you're really unsettling me. What is happening?" I took a deep breath, my fingers clenching around the glass. "Tonight Arthur shared something with me," I succeeded in uttering, my voice scarcely rising above a whisper. Wyatt's expression transformed in an instant, a fleeting glimpse of something, perhaps fear, crossing his features. "Is that you, Arthur?" He reiterated, a deep furrow forming on his brow. What were his words? Our eyes locked, yet I hesitated to respond right away. I found myself uncertain of my abilities. The silence lingered in the air, heavy and oppressive, until I found my voice once more. Arthur mentioned that you're concealing something from me, something significant. My voice quivered at the conclusion of the sentence, revealing the fear and vulnerability I had long suppressed. For a brief instant, Wyatt simply gazed at me, as though he were struggling to comprehend the words that had just escaped my lips. His complexion drained of color, and I noticed his jaw clench, his body becoming rigid under the burden of the words. "Excuse me, could you clarify what you mean by that?" he inquired, his tone abruptly cutting, filled with defensiveness. What could have prompted him to utter such words? "I don't know," I said, my voice trembling, yet it gnaws at my very core. I can no longer maintain the facade that all is well, especially when I am utterly in the dark about what is truly happening. What is it, Wyatt? What lies behind this mystery? Wyatt's gaze dropped to the floor, his face a mask of inscrutability, and the air around us thickened with unspoken tension. The atmosphere in the room became dense, each passing moment a burden I questioned my ability to bear. I didn't want you to find out like this," he murmured, his voice dropping to a near whisper, tinged with regret. "My intention was never to cause you pain." My heart raced, an unsettling feeling taking root within me. "Could you clarify what you mean?" I murmured, my voice scarcely more than a sigh. Wyatt averted his gaze from me. He cast his gaze downward, his hands quivering ever so slightly as they sifted through his hair. It was evident that he was grappling with his thoughts, as if the words were ensnared within him, yearning to break free. I lingered, heart pounding, striving to maintain my composure. At last, he inhaled deeply and raised his gaze to meet mine. He started with a story about Arthur. "There exists a truth you remain unaware of, a secret he has been concealing from you as well." A shiver coursed through me, sending a chill racing down my spine. "Could you clarify what you mean? What secrets has Arthur been concealing?" Wyatt's expression turned steely, his gaze sharpening. "It isn't solely my experience, it is we. We are all in this together. To uncover the truth, we must delve into every detail of our conversation. However, the truth may not be to your liking." The atmosphere crackled with intensity, heavy with the burden of unvoiced realities and unexplored realms. A knot of anxiety tightened in my stomach, yet I refused to retreat. I found myself compelled to seek the answer. I sought the truth regardless of the anguish it may bring. "Share your thoughts with me," I spoke, my voice unwavering, even in the midst of the chaos within me. "Share all the details with me." Wyatt inhaled deeply once more, his gaze fixed unwaveringly on mine. In that instant, I realized that everything had irrevocably changed. The words he was on the brink of uttering held the power to transform everything. The gravity of Wyatt's words lingered in the atmosphere, dense and oppressive. A chill gripped my chest, and a shiver danced along my spine as I awaited his next words. His eyes reflected a deep struggle, as though he were searching for the precise words to convey a truth that could dismantle everything we had built together. "Arthur, and I," Wyatt started, his voice soft and uncertain. "Our bond has transcended mere friendship for quite some time now. We have experienced a considerable amount of the passage of time woven with tales of yore. It may be difficult to accept, yet the reality is not as you perceive it." The words lingered in the air, their meaning just out of reach, as if they were waiting for the right moment to settle into my consciousness. My thoughts surged, striving to unravel the meaning behind his words. The chronicles of the past, beyond mere friendship? Could it be that I was truly hearing him correctly? I took a deep breath, feeling my heart race within me. What exactly do you mean by more than just friends? My voice hovered just above a whisper, as though uttering the words would somehow solidify the reality of it all. Wyatt shut his eyes for a fleeting instant, as if bracing himself for what was to come. As he reopened his eyes, a profound sorrow lingered within them. Yet there was also an honesty I had never witnessed before. Our relationship has been intricate, he murmured, his voice slicing through the silence with an unmistakable sense of closure. What began as a simple bond of friendship unexpectedly blossomed into something more profound. For all these years I've borne the weight of guilt, not solely for myself but for you as well. My intention was never to cause you pain. My knees buckled and I clutched the edge of the counter seeking stability. Thoughts swirled in my mind as I tried to grasp the weight of Wyatt's confession. The betrayal transcended mere actions. It was rooted in the secrets he had concealed from me for years. The burden of his secret, heavy with guilt, bore down on me, stifling my breath as I grappled with the shock. All this time, you and Arthur. I couldn't even bring myself to complete the thought, the words tasting strange and unfamiliar on my tongue. Wyatt nodded, his gaze heavy with remorse. It was not an affair, at least not in the manner you might be imagining. Though our connection lacked physicality, it was imbued with an emotional depth that defied explanation, a bond that transcended the ordinary. The connection we shared transcended mere friendship, yet it was also a misstep, one I severed long ago, striving to erase it from memory, to entomb it deep within. Yet I found myself unable to break free from it. The ground seemed to shift beneath my feet, as though all that I believed to be true had been abruptly yanked away. My breath caught in my throat as I fought to maintain my composure. What emotions was I meant to experience? Fury? Deceit? Or could it have been something deeper? Perhaps a blend of sorrow and incredulity. I never intended for you to discover it this way, Wyatt said, his voice trembling ever so slightly. I ought to have shared this with you earlier. Yet I found myself at a loss for words, fearing the possibility of losing you. The tears I had been suppressing at last broke free, and I brushed my face with the back of my hand, struggling to stifle the sobs that threatened to emerge. The pain stemmed not merely from the truth itself, but from the years of trust that lay shattered. The love I once believed was anchored in something steadfast now felt delicate and fraught with doubt. A long moment passed in silence as I held my tongue. I remained rooted in place, taking in the weight of Wyatt's revelation. My thoughts clamored for escape, urging me to flee, to abandon all, to never glance behind. Yet an unseen force within me anchored me, a fragment of my soul still bound to the man I had once cherished so profoundly. I require a moment to gather my thoughts, I finally murmured, my voice strained and weary. At this moment I find myself at a loss for emotions. All I require is a moment to myself. Wyatt moved in, his expression brimming with urgency. I comprehend. I never anticipated your immediate forgiveness, yet I implore you, do not walk away. I am determined to take every necessary step to set things straight. I gently shook my head, a slow, deliberate motion. I'm uncertain if that's within your capabilities. I'm uncertain if I will ever perceive you in quite the same light again. The words pierced deeply, yet they held an undeniable truth. A profound sorrow enveloped me as I came to terms with the truth that nothing would ever return to its former state. The trust we had nurtured, the life we had crafted, seemed to be eluding my grasp. Yet, a fragment of my heart clung to the belief that perhaps, just perhaps, we could reconstruct what was lost if we both committed to the effort. As I strolled by Wyatt, the sound of my footsteps reverberated through the stillness of the house, guiding me toward the living room. I settled onto the couch, enveloping myself in a cocoon of warmth and solace. The world beyond felt remote, almost surreal, as though it had severed its ties with my existence. I lingered by the window, lost in a tempest of thoughts. The night had grown frigid, and I sensed the cold seep deeply into my very bones. What comes next? What awaited us in the unfolding chapters ahead? Is forgiveness even possible for him? Is it possible for me to place my trust in him once more? As the moments slipped away, they left behind wounds that refused to mend. It provided me with the opportunity to ponder, to contemplate all that we had experienced, all that I believed we shared. As the days unfolded, it became clear to me that a decision lay before me. I could cling to the remnants of the past, to the bitterness and the pain, or I could endeavor to forge ahead, with or without him. It would not come without its challenges. Time would be required. Yet, perhaps, there existed a glimmer of hope to restore what had been shattered. Ultimately, I was certain of one thing. Progress felt impossible until I discovered tranquility within my own being. It would require an abundance of time, far exceeding my initial expectations. I simply wished that Wyatt would be inclined to grant me that time.